Now that we have our scene set up, we'll continue by adding our main character to the game and have it walk around. I will start by importing a model from our browser. I like this model here, dress girl. And here it is. So I'm going to click on her and wait for it to show up in my project. There she is, and I'm going to position her here in my gas station. Then I'm going to select the dress girl game object. Let's rename it to player, and in the inspector let's add the tag player to it as well. Which reminds me, we've created a new main camera, so I just going to select this main camera and add the main camera tag, which I already did, but if you didn't, just add the main camera tag to it. Next, I'm going to go back to my player and I'm going to remove this random movement script from it. So when you import models from the browser, they come with this random movement script, which is essentially picking up a random position in the world and move the character to it. Once it gets there, it gets another random position. This is so you can already see the animated model in action once you import it. But we're going to replace this with our own logic, so I'm going to remove this one. And if I go down into the rig child game object, there's another script called run walk idle controller, which I'm also going to remove. Great. Now, what we want to do in a world is, as we click in the world, we want our character to move to that position. That's why we created the navigation mesh when we were doing the scene setup. And the logic for this movement will use a code snippet from Keith M, which I found on his website, keithmaggio.wordpress.com, which enables smooth turning with NavMesh Agent AI. So thank you, Keith, for your snippet. We'll be using that to ensure that our character turns smoothly when moving around the scene. I made some changes to it only related to the animation. I already have the script here on my scripts folder called player controls. I'm going to open it and I'm just going to walk you through the changes I did related to animation. So I've added a whole bunch of comments to the code, as you can see, so you can understand what is going on each one of the steps. But let's talk specifically about the animation part, which is the one that I've changed. So first of all, I added these two variables, a camera variable and, oh, actually the camera variable was there already. I added the animation component, and then we had the variables for walk speed, which I'm going to change to 1, the crossfade at the rate of turn, and then let's change it from on enable to start. So over here I'm setting up the reference to the animation component, and on update what happens is when you click the left mouse button, we make a raycast from the position where you click the button. I'm sorry, from the position where you clicked on the screen. And if we hit something, then we're going to create a nav mesh from the position where the player is, or the nav mesh agent is, to the place where you clicked. And then one of my changes, I'm just calling set animation walk, which is this function here that simply calls the crossfade function from the animation component in order to transition from my current animation to the new animation. So when I click on something, I'm going to transition to the walk animation and set the walking speed. Another change, if we scroll down, is when the character arrives at its destination, I'm going to set the animation to idle. So over here, and finally right here. So I'm going to save this script and back into Unity. I'm going to select my player. Apply the player controls script to it. Walk speed is 1, and if I press play, now if I click on the world, oh, of course, I have never set the nav mesh agent on my player. Nav mesh agent, and here's a player. Let's set up. I think it's floating a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit above ground. Okay, and let's set the radius and the base offset. Okay, so let's press play again. And now it's working. So as I click in my world, my character moves around, and you can see that it smoothly makes curves. So great. So now we already have our first action working, which is walking. And in the next video, we'll start to set up the items in our game.